Hi there, I'm Jim.
And I'm Claire.
Let's talk teaching. Welcome to Let's Talk Teaching, a podcast from the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology here at Illinois State University. I'm Jim G., and joining me once again today, our director, Dr. Claire LaMonica. Hey, Claire.
Hi, Jim.
How are you?
I'm great.
Hey, we're going to be doing a little midterm check-in here on our spring courses because we're both teaching this semester.
We're both teaching, yeah.
In addition to all the busyness that we do here at CTLT.
Because we didn't have enough to do.
Well, and it's nice to be able to do something that, not that we don't enjoy our work here at CTLT.
It takes me back to my roots.
Exactly.
And I assume it does the same for you.
It
Well,
does.
you have kind of weird roots, but some of them are teaching. Well, because, you have broadcast roots as well as teaching roots.
That's true. And so and I teach a broadcast performance class typically. So, yeah, I guess.
Nice fit.
But, it's nice having a job, too, just as a side note, where I can occasionally also use these skills. I don't know if we ever actually talked about the origins of our podcast on the podcast itself, but we used to do a newsletter, which I hated doing.
Yeah.
And no one read. And no one wrote anything for.
What's your evidence? Well, that was more of a problem.
That was more of a problem. No one read it because no one was writing anything for it. And we had such great conversations. And then one day I'm like, boy, I almost should record the. Oh, wait a minute. I have 3 degrees in mass communication. And a degree particularly in radio and television production. So, oops.
Yeah, oops.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
There we go. Anyway, but we're talking about teaching today as usual. And when we talked about, hey, what are we going to do our next episode on, I had suggested we just do a little check-in with teaching. And you kind of lit up with that idea because I think this has been you've had some reflection and all that and made some changes in your teaching this semester.
This has been a great semester. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm teaching this semester a graduate class for the Department of English.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the department's post-baccalaureate certificate in the teaching of writing, which is a graduate certificate.
Mm-hmm.
All of my students are practicing classroom teachers in middle school or high school.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, we meet on Saturday mornings. I use a blended format so that we actually only have to meet every other Saturday, which has been, I think, helpful to all of us. And it's just going great.
Yeah.
It's going, yeah. So I have to say, I had never taught this class before, so this was a new prep for me.
Oh, see, I thought this was the one that you had taught years ago and you came back to it.
No, I've always taught the rhetoric class in the sequence, and this class is called Teaching Writing with Technology. So in spite of the fact that I started teaching writing with technology in like 1985,
right?
I was a little bit daunted by the topic because it's been a decade since I taught a writing class specifically. And I knew that technology had come a long way.
A long way.
A long way.
Yes.
So, teaching writing with technology no longer meant, having students in a computer lab only. So I appealed to my wonderful friend, mentor, colleague, Jim Kalmbach, who is recently retired from the English department and who was the last person who taught this class. And he was so generous. He sent me all of his stuff, his syllabus, his book list, his assignments, the whole bit. Now, I have to say, with the way technology changes, I did change some of the readings, not all of them.
Well, and that's something that probably is another show. That's something that I've encountered too. When you inherit a course from someone and you get their syllabus and all of their lesson plans, someday we're going to have to do an episode on, how do you judiciously go through and
We really do need to do that because that's been, and let's do it while it's fresh in my mind because I hadn't done that in a while. And this
next
is
week.
Next week.
Yeah.
Next week, folks, tune in. We'll be talking about when you inherit a course.
Yeah.
Because obviously no course is a perfect fit for any two people. So I did have to make some modifications. But the thing that I didn't modify is the thing that I was most excited about when you asked me about this the other day. And that is that Jim's plan for the course, his design for the course, gave me the courage to let go.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been life-changing for me.
Yeah.
It really has. Especially because I teach this basically as an overload. So I try not to take tons of time out of my day job, to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously I have to take a little bit, but I'm not spending every evening planning.
Right.
Because the way the course was designed, the bulk of the responsibility falls on the students. Duh. What a concept. So it's been fabulous. Another one of my mentors is Tim Fredstrom in the music class and in the music department. And I'm sure I've said this before, but he has this saying that about school shouldn't be a place where students go to watch teachers work hard. And, it's kind of supposed to be the other way around.
Yeah.
I would say I'm actually experiencing that this semester where the students are working hard and I am sitting and watching and learning. And it was a particularly good fit, given that I wasn't, sure about my own expertise in this area.
Uh-huh.
I'm allowing myself to draw on their expertise and for them to bring in their questions and the answers that they're finding in the readings, and it's great. It's fabulous.
Well, you are very passionate about it. I mean, you when I walked into your office and we started talking about this before we recorded the show today, you lit up.
Yeah.
And I think the exact phrase you used was "let it go."
Yes.
And so I looked into licensing certain songs from Disney, but we can't afford that.
I so wanted to sing, but I can't sing, and B, it would have been very expensive if I broke into a few choruses of "Let It Go."
I'm going back and looking at fair use. Can we even put an image? But no, we're probably not going to be able to.
Oh, darn.
Oh darn! So
I don't look anything like Elsa, by the way. For those of you who've never seen me,
neither do I. I'm probably most similar to the snowman in body type, but that's a whole nother Oleg, something like Oleg, something like that. Anyway, so to drill down a little deeper, when we're saying let go or let it go, obviously, in part that is giving up control, right?
To a certain extent, not more than I'm. Well, yes, more than I have been comfortable with, but I still, my work was front loaded. I had to provide the structure, provide the assignments, which I updated, and provide the readings, obviously. But a lot of that was done before I ever started teaching.
Yeah. One thing that I hear from when we go in and do midterm chats, we should ring a bell every time we make midterm chats on this.
Ding, ding, ding.
Although I did one this semester, someone said, "Hey, I heard your podcast," and I was interested.
Oh.
So it
cool.
I like justifying my podcasting existence, so that's good. Anyway, so having done some midterm chats, occasionally I will talk to students who, in classes where the students seem to do a lot of the instruction. Where they're doing a lot of the presenting and stuff like that. And it's gotten mixed reviews, to be generous. So what do you do to make sure that when the students are presenting the material to their fellow students, what can we do to make sure that it's still an optimal learning experience for everyone else? They're learning from the act of having to create and present, right?
Well, yeah, except that so yes, there is a presentational element for this class. So
okay.
I should say that it really helps that these are all experienced teachers. So they're experienced school teachers. They are experienced basically. I think in this class they teach 8th through 12th grade. There are people pretty much at every level, 8 through 12. So they're used to designing engaging learning experiences because, if you got 8th graders and you're not engaging them, so that helps. But they're also not presenting a lot of information. Okay. So the information is basically in the readings. They're in the books that we're reading.
So are they doing more leading
so
discussions?
They're leading discussions. So
Okay.
here's what they do. This is really interesting. And each week somebody does a teaching with technology demonstration.
Oh, okay.
And basically that is a lesson that they might use in their own school with their own students. And they just lead us through it. And it's a writing lesson that's in some way incorporates technology. So somebody does, we spend the first hour and they do their lesson, and then we have a general conversation about what worked about this lesson, what questions you have, how would you have to adapt this lesson if you were to take it into your classroom, because
Gotcha.
obviously you might have access to different technologies, your students might be at a different grade level, whatever. Then we have 2 hours that were originally conceived as a discussion, and so one of the students prepares the discussion questions, and then a focusing activity. So something that focuses our attention on either sort of the overall takeaway from the reading or some specific piece of the reading that struck the person who's designing it as particularly interesting or problematic or whatever. So now what the interesting thing that these folks are doing is sometimes interweaving those two. And that was fine. I mean, I'm like, oh yeah, cool. That's actually kind of nice. So although if I were doing it again, I would consider having 3 separate students in charge of the hours, the time,
Right.
and having one do a teaching with technology demo, one doing the discussion, and one doing the focusing activity. But I would have to think about that because they seem to like the way this is going, and they're doing some fun things.
And how many students are in the?
It's a small group. I have only 5.
Okay.
It was at one point up to 6, but then I sent out the reading list and somebody bailed. Like, oh,
well, better
okay.
then.
Yeah.
better then. So yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's it's a graduate class. So
Yeah.
so we have each student is basically in charge of that. That means that they're covering the bulk of the times we meet together. Now,
Right.
once they start on their final projects and they're not doing as much common reading, things will shake things up a little bit.
Sure.
I will take one, I'll take at least one of those days, and I'll do a teaching demo and
Right.
lead a conversation and blah
Cool.
blah blah. So
Cool.
anyway,
It's a learning experience for you too, then, because you're already talking about how you're going to do it next time.
yeah.
So I think
yes,
that's
I
great.
am. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happens, right?
Yeah.
You get part way into it and you think,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is
Yeah.
I could do this better.
So I often fiddle with my course from semester to semester, and because I'm teaching in a new space, which I think we've talked about before,
Yeah.
in a collaboration classroom,
Yeah.
I've really restructured some of it. Once I get a new textbook, which is probably going to happen for fall. I've been waiting for the publisher to actually fire up the
get
printing.
the thing
I know,
published.
yeah, I know what I want. I just don't have it yet. I'll be restructuring things, but I've actually had a somewhat frustrating spring semester
Oh.
so far. Well,
Because of the space?
no, not because of the
Oh,
space. I
okay.
think in some ways, okay, my suspicion is that because the space is less structured in terms of like traditional rigid row seating and everything
rows.
else,
Yeah.
and I have become, I think, a lot easier going. And I think this is all a good thing. But I'm having issues now that I've never encountered before with the number of students who aren't turning into assignments.
Oh.
And big projects and stuff like that.
Well, that doesn't seem
missing-
like that would be related to the space, although maybe the attitude
That's
that
what
the
I'm thinking.
space engenders?
That's what I'm wondering. It may also just be this semester, and
Could be
I've-
this group of students.
this group of students, and I've been reminding myself of what you've often said on our pokey little podcast here, which is that we have to realize students are very busy people. But some of them are so bad at communicating with me. Everyone who
And
said,
they are supposed to do their coursework.
and they are supposed to do their coursework, and it's not just you didn't read the syllabus and all that, although I didn't explain the syllabus ad nauseum. I haven't done that in a long time. So I'm kind of in detective mode right now, trying to see what's going on. I mean, one or two cases I suspect, and I've gone through channels and because they've missed a lot of class as well. And this
Yeah.
is a one night a
Well,
week
yeah.
course. It's, again, undergraduates. It's a small class. It's about 16, 15. But we meet one night a week on Monday nights for 3 hours. So for some of them, it's a new experience anyway,
Yeah.
doing that.
It's a hard format. So many of us
Yeah.
teach in that format, but
Yeah.
that's not easy.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
Monday nights, and it's winter and all that, and
Yeah.
the bleak late
Oh.
winter and all that other stuff. Yeah. The other reason why I'm a little this semester is because last semester there's always one person who doesn't turn in one of the
Sure.
big projects.
Yeah.
So as an incentive this semester, I put a little thing in the syllabus and I pointed it out to people that said, look, you need to, if you don't complete the 3 major projects and the 2 major exams for this course, then I'm going to lower your grade by 1 letter.
Well, yeah.
In addition
Yeah.
to all the points. But
Yeah.
now I'm in the position of where I'm probably going to actually have to make good on that. I'm
Oh.
probably going to have to deliver on that.
Oh.
And I don't like that. So what I'm really leading to is that we'll be doing an episode soon on grading without points.
Oh. Pointless grading.
Pointless grading.
Yeah.
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 So I'm kind of all over the place with my class this semester. I mean, there's been some really good discussions, and the collaborative part has worked out phenomenally well. It's a little bit different than what you're talking about, certainly in terms of scale. But we watch a lot of media, and they do some of that at home, and they bring in examples. Well, now instead of all of us sitting there and watching the same 16 or 17 examples of a talk show or whatever, I can break them into groups, and they can do that amongst, and then they choose which one they're going to display, and we talk about why we're so because this is much about performance criticism and analysis and all that as it is actually performing. So their aspects of that have been great, but they're just not turning stuff in. and I'm scratching my head.
Have you asked them?
I've asked a couple of them, I've done a lot of hey, I still haven't found this from you. What's going on? And some of them will get back to me and will explain what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's just a quantity of them.
Well,
I think
I'm
I've
wondering.
a lot more.
This would be a great opportunity for you to, perhaps in order to eliminate the hypothesis that it is connected to the room, or to discover maybe that it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a great opportunity, not necessarily for a midterm chat, but for getting some midterm feedback from your students through other means, and maybe even focusing it specifically on the space. What are the ways that this space is helping you learn? What are there any ways that this space makes it difficult for you to learn?
Right.
Actually sort of reframing those midterm chat questions and seeing what kind that might be of interest, to a lot of people, because we're talking about moving into more sort of 21st century learning spaces, and obviously we want to be able to make the most of those. But it doesn't sound to me like, other than the sort of general, maybe more, less kind of rigid structure of the space, and that maybe
I think it's an indirect path. I don't think that suddenly their brains turn to jello, or they lose the will to do work. Because it's a more casual seating environment and they have more flexible choices. Not that at all. I think it affected me, and I'm wondering if somehow I affected. If I affected that. So I don't know.
That's a different set of questions.
It is a different set of questions. It's also, it's a fairly relaxed environment. Students have responded to that. I mean, we're not, and because it's a more collaborative environment, I don't have to do the whole technology. I don't have to ban a lot of technology. First of all,
you need it. They need it.
They need it for what they're doing.
They need their technology for what they're doing.
But also, for the most part, when we're doing group work, they're on task, and so I'm not concerned that they're sitting there watching a movie or something like that. So.
Much harder to tune out of a five student conversation than it is from a 20 student conversation with everybody sort of talking together. So they probably feel more accountable to their peers.
Yeah. So I'll have to keep everyone updated, I guess, on this head scratcher. It's and part of it is just it's been a busy spring as well, and I'm sure my mood is affecting my perceptions of all this and everything else. So
it'll be interesting if you teach in that space again, to see. I mean, that's one thing that'll help, because if it's the class, and I'm never a blame the students person.
No,
you
and I'm
know,
not either. Yeah.
but I do know that
Yeah.
classes develop mentalities that are beyond the individual student mentalities. You know,
Mhm.
they kind of you get a bunch of students in a room and they meld into some kind of hive mind, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden it changes the behavior of the group.
Now, see, you just now that makes me think I need to also go back and look and see where they're at academically in their careers.
Oh yeah, that too.
This could actually just be a massive case of senioritis,
If they're all seniors.
and it's
Yeah.
my class that and I have had students, and I'm happy. When students reach out to me, I am more than happy to give them more time to do stuff.
Right.
And so, for example, I think my class is the one that people are going to ask for more time when they're feeling overwhelmed.
Because they know you're open to that.
Because they know I'm open to that. So
Yeah.
it may be that some are just not asking.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just taking
They're
the
just
time.
expecting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
they're saying to themselves, well, it's only X number of points. This goes back to the whole pointless grading thing.
Yeah.
They're playing that calculus in their head. They're
Yeah.
playing the game.
Yeah.
Well, I can afford to lose X number of points in Jim's class because I have to get Y number of points in Professor so-and-so's class.
That's a nice thing about. Well, I haven't used points in any of my grading for years and years, but especially not in a grad class.
Sure.
I would never use points in a grad class. I never have anyway. So
Well,
and they're all pretty. That's another thing I'm doing. They're all pretty laid back about their grades. That I haven't actually given them any letter grades. I'm just providing narrative feedback on their work, and they've all been perfectly happy with that. So
yeah.
it's wigging me out a little bit, but
Right.
also there's nobody who's struggling. I mean,
Right.
because I'm providing narrative feedback sort of continuously, I'm a little bit able to say, I just was exchanging emails with one of the students this morning about her final project, and she'd really kind of gone off what she was initially thinking, and that was okay because it's just, I think their proposals for their final projects are due like in maybe 2 weeks from now. She's thinking early, but as she was proposing her proposal, I was able to say, well, hold on, that's not really going to fulfill the requirements for this assignment, and kind of redirect her and say, what, you could do this and that would work,
Right.
or come up with something else and let me know. So,
Well, I think when we do my Let It Go episode, it will probably be something more along the lines of how am I using points in class or something like that, because that's something that I can't even conceive of not doing.
Points.
Having points. I haven't made that cognitive connection yet. I know it can be done. I know there are people who can talk about it. So we'll talk to those people.
Yeah, we've got lots of faculty on campus who are really interested in that and who are not using points. They're doing other kinds of things. So get some of those people in here.
We will. I'll bring them in.
To one of these microphone thingies.
Well, until that time, that's about all the time we have.
Yeah.
So thanks so much, Claire.
Thank you, Jim.
You can find out more about our podcast by going to our website, ctlt.illinoisstate.edu. Click on the podcast link on the main page. For Dr. Claire LaMonica, for all my colleagues here at the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology, until we talk again, happy teaching.